We are on Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is entitled Eligibility of the Candidate for Accepting Devotional Service. So like we saw last week, we saw there are two types of sadhana bhakti, Vaidhi and Raganuga. We saw in detail what Vaidhi bhakti is, and we saw in brief the definition of Raganuga bhakti, and how Vaidhi bhakti is mostly inspired by what?
Scriptures.
Obligatory, mostly inspired by scriptural injunction or the directions of Guru, spiritual master. And Raganuga is that fear factor is not there. It is mostly self-driven, self-motivated. So now, we plan to cover today two chapters, third and fourth. So here we will look into the qualification of who can practice sadhana bhakti or pure devotion service. So in Chapter 3, and if you open the notes also, there is quite a good explanation given. Should we do the shlokas first before we begin? Okay. अन्याभिलाषिता शून्यं ज्ञानकर्माद्यनावृतं आनुकूल्येन कृष्णानु शीलनं भक्तिरुत्तमा सर्वोपाधिविनिर्मुक्तं तत्परत्वेन निर्मलं ऋषिकेन ऋषिकेश सेवनं भक्तिरुच्यते श्रुति स्मृति पुराणादि पंचरात्र विधिं विना ऐकांतिकी हरेर्भक्तिर् उत्पाता एव कल्पते विहायस्य हरेर्दास्ये कर्मणा मनसा गिरा निखिलास्वप्यवस्थासु जीवन्मुक्त स उच्यते अतः श्रीकृष्ण नामादि न भवेद् ग्राह्यमिन्द्रियैः सेवोन्मुखे हि जिह्वादौ स्वयमेव स्फुरत्यदा. Okay, definition of sadhana bhakti, page 84. कृति साध्या भवेत् साध्या कृति साध्या भवेत् साध्या भावा सा साधनाभिधा भावा सा साधनाभिधा नित्यसिद्धस्य भावस्य नित्यसिद्धस्य भावस्य प्राकट्यं हृदि साध्यता प्राकट्यं हृदि साध्यता. क्लेशाग्निशुपदा मोक्ष लघुता कृत्सु दुर्लभा सांद्रानंद विशेषात्मा श्रीकृष्णाकर्षिणी च सा स्मर्तव्य सततं विष्णु विस्मर्तव्यो न जातु चित् सर्वे विधि निषेधास्यु एतयोरेव किंकर. That's it?
86 page.
Akhila Rasam. There is no, do you know the meter? The meter? Akhila Rasamrita Murti
अखिल सांप्रदायिक
प्रसृमर रुचिरुद्ध तारका पाली
प्रसमद रुचिरुद्ध तारका पाली
कलित श्यामा ललितो
कलित श्यामालतो
राधा प्रेयान विधुर्जयति.
राधा प्रिया विदुषयति.
What else we have? Okay, do you know this famous verse? Nama Chintamani Krishnas
नाम चिंतामणि कृष्ण
Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha
चैतन्य रस विग्रह
Purna Shuddho Nityamukto
पूर्ण शुद्धो नित्यमुक्तो
Vinnatvan Nama Namino.
विनत्वानामनो.
So this is all we have done till now. Okay, so that's the shloka thing. Do we have anything here? So if you open this thing, your PowerPoint slides, Chapter 3. वो नोट्स में है ना towards the end. So Chapter 3 discusses eligibility. Yeah. It discusses eligibility. It says, is knowledge and renunciation needed for practicing pure devotion service? Is knowledge and renunciation a prerequisite? Prerequisite for practicing pure devotion service. Then what are the grades of eligibility to advance? Different stages of advancement, different grades of degrees of advancement. What are the varieties of low grade devotees? Kanishta Adhikaris. Who is the best of these among Kanishta? What are the impediments to advancement in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, and what is the most important need? Now this chapter and the next, especially the next, you will find a lot of references. This chapter has about, towards the end, 6 references from the Bhagavatam and some other Puranas. And the next chapter is only references. Around 18 to 20 references are there. Various quotations from the Bhagavatam and this Puran, that Puran, and how devotees reject liberation for pure devotion service. So we won't go into each and every reference and discuss each and every story, because the story is mostly known to everyone. But some few points we will discuss from the second chapter also, and that should finish today's topic of both chapters. So this chapter, third chapter, has quite some important points about the different grades of devotion service. So let us begin the first paragraph. Yes, bro, can you read?
Eligibility of the candidate for accepting devotion service. On account of his association with Mahatmas or great souls, 100% in the devotional service of the Lord, one may attain a little bit of attraction for Sri Krishna, but at the same time, one may remain very much attached to fruitive activities and material sense enjoyment, and not be prepared to undergo the different types of renunciation. Such a person, if he has unflinching attraction to Krishna, becomes an eligible candidate for discharging devotion service.
Very important point made here. Who is eligible for rendering pure bhakti? Only the required condition is he should have attraction for Krishna. That's it. Even if a person has so many anarthas in the heart, lust, anger, greed, everything is troubling him, and so many other desires he has, that doesn't matter to practice pure devotion service. All you need is attraction toward Krishna. And that is the qualification for Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. One may remain very much attached to fruitive activities. We may even continue performing other materialistic activities, other non-devotional activities. But if we have attraction for Krishna, we are qualified to render pure devotional service. And that's what we are doing. Despite all the negative things in our heart, we continue. Pure chanting, pure, at least we are supposed to do. We are qualified to do all these things. And yeah.
But in chapter 2, that now we are talking attraction. But that attraction comes in that Raganuga Bhakti, right?
Yeah, even I feel.
Oh,
So
that attraction is different. Here we are talking about some liking, some.
okay. It is only liking.
Yeah.
It's not attraction.
Yeah.
Means this attraction here means liking.
Some affinity towards Krishna. Oh, I like Krishna.
That it's given unflinching attraction
Which one?
this year.
Yeah, unflinching.
So
If it's
there's unflinching attraction to Krishna.
Yeah, may not be the intensity may be varying. In Raganuga, the intensity of attraction will be much thicker.
It will be at the prema bhav.
Not exactly prema. Prema is the last stage,
Okay.
but slightly more than a beginner.
This thing.
Beginner's attraction. Like how all of us came.
Just like if we see the deities, we get
Yeah, some we like Krishna, like the pastimes, some kind of steady attraction from home, social upbringing may have, home worship may be there, some certain level of I like, that likeness towards, we don't call it pure love, prema, but that attraction is there, basic affinity is there. Second paragraph talks about how this renunciation is not needed as a qualification, because many people consider unless you are renounced from your material mundane activities, how can you take up spiritual life? That's what is discussed. Yes, Prabhu.
This attraction for Krishna consciousness in association with pure devotees is the sign of great fortune. It is confirmed by Lord Chaitanya that only the fortunate persons, by the mercy of both the bona fide spiritual master and Krishna, will get the seed of devotional service. In this connection, Lord Krishna says in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 20th chapter, verse 8, My dear Uddhava, only by exceptional fortune does someone become attracted to me, and even if one is not completely attached from fruitive activities, and is not completely attached to devotional service, such service is quickly effective.
So how do you get the eligibility? From the Sadhu Sangha. By the mercy of both a bona fide spiritual master and Krishna. And the first line of the chapter also begins like that. On account of association with Mahatmas. When you come in touch with devotees, that's when we receive the eligibility to perform devotion. Our natural loving attraction is slightly aroused. And then we feel, okay, I can do this, I want to do this. And that attraction begins. So eligibility is obtained by our association with devotees, and renunciation is not a prerequisite for practicing pure devotion service. And the eligibility is only liking, an affection, attraction towards Krishna. So now Prabhupada and Rupa Goswami describes 3 classes of devotees. This section is little important. Yes.
Renunciation is
Not a prerequisite for practicing pure devotion service. Anyone, even at home, people who are working, people who are students, or people who are renunciants, everyone can practice. Unlike there are so many organizations that demand you have to give up so many things. Of course, in our ISKCON Prabhupada's philosophy, we give up sinful habits. That giving up is there. But we don't have to change our external situation. That renunciation is not needed. Because many people, when they see saffron devotees, they feel, this is the first question they get. What about, you have to give up the job, you have to give up everything, what about family, who is taking care of parents, all these questions arise in their minds. And because where they say saffron is the only people who are populating ISKCON, they get their idea. Without understanding that there are so many family members, grihasthas and working people also are members of ISKCON. So then we have to convince them, no, we are just a minority here. Maybe hardly 150 people staying there. The rest all are people who are working and having family and children, all those things. So, but there are organizations that demand you have to especially Mayavadi organization, strict sannyasis. Of course, now that is also a rare thing in Kali Yuga. But they demand you can't you can't lead a normal, regular, worldly life in order to take up spiritual life. So yes, now the three classes of devotees are described according to their faith and according to their knowledge. This is important because how we are repeatedly warned, now we should not judge devotees, we should not discriminate devotees, and that will be considered offensive, and you may end up committing big offense if you misunderstand or misjudge a devotee. You don't know who is senior, who is junior, who is advanced, who is not advanced. Even a newcomer can be an advanced devotee. So we are generally warned about the dangers of committing Vaishnava aparadh, because that is highly detrimental to the Bhakti Lata, creeper. It can destroy. But at the same time, we can't just blindly follow anything, anyone and everyone. Some kind of judgment is there. As long as it is not offensive, then it is quite safe. Because whom to hear, whom not to hear. Especially when we hear from senior advanced devotees, and if they are really pure at heart, then that purity will influence us and we also advance. But if a new devotee or devotee with lot of material desire, lust, anger, greed, practicing devotional service, but he's still troubled by anarthas, that hearing will be less effective compared to hearing from a great soul. So if at all we have an option whom to hear from, probably we may have to discriminate. We can't attend all lectures, all places, everywhere we can't go. Then we discriminate. And even offering respects, you can't just consider everyone to be on the same level. Some are, if you see the Chaitanya Charitamrita there, Lord Chaitanya talks about who is a Vaishnava. And so he says, anyone who chants Hare Krishna is a Vaishnava. One class of devotees, every year they ask this question. So first year when they asked, who are those people? Some devotees. They asked this question, who is a Vaishnava? So Lord Chaitanya answered, anyone who chants Hare Krishna. Krishna's name, that is a Vaishnava. Next year they asked the same question during the Rath Yatra festival. So he said, anyone who has accepted a spiritual master, that person is a Vaishnava. And next year they asked the same question and he gave another answer. He said, anyone who is completely dedicated, life and soul, surrendered to Krishna, that is a Vaishnava. So that corresponds to our discussion here, Kanishta, Madhyama and Uttama, something of that classification. So Lord Chaitanya himself discriminates who is what, who is on which level. Especially when accepting a spiritual master, we can't accept from anyone. We can't accept Diksha from anyone. We have to accept a really fixed up, advanced, pure devotee who can take us back to God, whom we are convinced of. Not just out of fashion we accept anyone who has a good reputation, name and fame, who has a lot of influence and followers. So out of social prestige, out of prestige issue, we don't accept anyone. So therefore discrimination is needed. So there are people who feel after Prabhupada there are no pure devotees because they are not advanced enough and they are not qualified enough to lead me in spiritual life. And there are splinter organizations even within the ISKCON, even our devotional community, who feel anyone after Prabhupada is not a pure devotee. Only Prabhupada is the last person who is a pure devotee and who can offer initiation. So when these people conduct initiation, they say, Prabhupada, this is your spiritual master. Your guru is Prabhupada. We are just a medium. Ritvik. I am a Ritvik person who is just offering on behalf of Prabhupada. So why? Because there have been cases where some gurus have slipped away from their position, from their purity. So just then their followers were disturbed and heartbroken. So then they lost all faith in everyone who is a disciple of Prabhupada. So they feel these disciples who are acting now as gurus, they are all doing it out of name and fame. They want followers, they want money, they want prestige. So they have taken up the position of a guru despite their lack of qualification. So this kind of misconceptions have arisen. So therefore we have this recently conducted course called ISKCON Disciples course, where all these misconceptions are attempted to be removed, so that we understand who is a guru, who is not a guru, why to accept a guru, what is that guru tattva, the philosophy of guru. So therefore this discussion is really important. Who is a neophyte in spiritual life? Who is a madhyama adhikari? Who is an uttama adhikari? So everyone is not on the same level. Usually we expect that people who have spent more years are more advanced, and people who are new are less advanced. And that rule applies quite universally. But there could be exceptions. Some newcomer could be following from the past life. He may be carrying forward his past life spiritual advancement, and then he's taking up from an advanced level. And an old person who has been in the movement for years together may not be probably so serious, and he may be advancing a little slow compared to others than normal rate. We don't know. So from his behavior, from his attitude, from his influence, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says one who can convert more number of people, he is an advanced devotee. One who can convert more number of people into devotees, such a person that's how you test who is an advanced devotee. It's something like in corporate world you give targets. More people you get, more. So people may confuse. This is what the difference between a spiritual institution and corporate world. But it does matter. Everything counts, and there is some meaning to this kind of analysis. So therefore, we need to study it deeply. What is the qualification? How do you determine the qualification and advancement of a spiritual practitioner? So let us read.
Devotees may be divided into three classes. The devotee in the first or utmost class is described as uppermost class is described as follows. He is very expert in the study of relevant scriptures, and he is also expert in putting forward arguments in terms of those scriptures. He can very nicely present conclusions with perfect discretion and can consider the ways of devotional service in a decisive way. He understands perfectly that the ultimate goal of life is to attain to the transcendental loving service of Krishna, and he knows that Krishna is the only object of worship and love. This first-class devotee is one who has strictly followed the rules and regulations under the training of a bona fide spiritual master and has sincerely obeyed him in accord with revealed scriptures. Thus, being fully trained to preach and become a spiritual master himself, he is considered first class. The first class devotee never deviates from principles of higher authority, and he attains firm faith in scriptures by understanding with all reason and arguments. When we speak of arguments and reason, it means arguments and reason on the basis of revealed scriptures. The first class devotee is not interested in dry speculative methods meant for wasting time. In other words, one who has attained a mature determination in the matter of devotional service can be accepted as the first class devotee.
So this is Uttama Adhikari in technical terms. One who has the topmost adhikar for practicing devotional service. The main consideration is he is convinced about the scriptural statements, and he can convince others. This is knowledge aspect. And his faith is strong. No one can shake that faith, despite all the logical and scientific bombardment happening in society. One example we find in Prabhupada's life when the moon landing mission happened. Right? So when the moon, he's sitting in his room, getting a massage from his disciple, and on the television that NASA thing is happening. NASA astronauts have landed on the moon, lunar surface, and the direct images from the moon is coming up, and everyone is excited. The whole especially whole America is excited about first Americans to land on the moon, and the disciple also who was giving the massage is also excited. So he's an American and he feels proud about being an American. And then so Prabhu said, what do you see there? So he said, we can only see rocks and stones and mud, and it's like a desert, something like a desert. So I said, that's all? What else do you see? That's all. Rocks and desert and mud and dust. But don't you see rivers and parks? Don't you see nice beautiful scenery? Don't you see landscapes and beautiful men and women? You don't see? I said, no. So then he says, if you don't see all this, then it is not the moon. This is not the moon. So it was a desert. In fact, it is a desert. They say the whole thing was conspired at the Arizona desert in America. So when Prabhupada later asked, where did actually they go? The rocket is going up and somewhere people are there inside. So Prabhupada said, either they didn't go, the whole thing was a hoax, or probably they landed on Rahu. Rahu planet. The celestial people can divert. If you are not qualified to enter our heavenly planet, they can divert into some demonic planet. Anyway, your mission is demonic, your motive is demonic. Go and join the demonic people on the Rahu and other demonic planets. So in this way, whether they went, the whole thing happened in America or somewhere else, they didn't land on the moon. That was the final conclusion. And no one could accept it. When the whole world is saying, first time human beings have landed on the moon, ultimate success of space program. Here is one person saying, no, this is a bogus thing. All because of scriptural, foundation is scriptural statement. It can never happen. And even Prabhupada's disciples had a hard time accepting the statement. Only those few who believed, they survived. So this is just an example of Uttama Bhakta, Uttama Adhikari. Strong faith in scriptural statements and convinced about the knowledge about the scriptural statements and can convince others. Next we will see Madhyama. What is the qualification of a second class devotee?
The second class devotee has been defined by the following symptoms. He is not very expert in arguing on the strength of the revealed scripture, but he has firm faith in the objective. The purport of this description is the second class devotee has firm faith in the procedure of devotional service unto Krishna, but he may sometimes fail to offer arguments and decisions on the strength of the revealed scriptures to an opposing party. But at the same time, he is still undaunted within himself as to his decision that Krishna is the supreme object of worship.
So in this case, he is convinced himself. I am convinced about the conclusions, but I am unable to convince an opposing party when there is an argument or a challenge. That's the difference. Unable to convince others about the conclusions of scriptures. Third paragraph is neophyte. Yes?
The neophyte or third class devotee is one whose faith is not strong and who, at the same time, does not recognize the decision of the revealed scripture. The neophyte's faith can be changed by someone else with strong arguments or by an opposite decision. Unlike the second class devotee, who also cannot put forward arguments and evidences from the scripture, but who still has all faith in the objective. The neophyte has no firm faith in the objective, thus he is called the neophyte devotee.
Neophyte. Faith is weak, knowledge is weak. Both are weak. So, if you have any of you have been preaching, then probably you might encounter such people. We try to get people through programs, get them to attend weekly sessions, weekly Sunday programs, temple programs, and they may even start taking up the chanting process, following the regulative principles, but to keep their faith steady is a big challenge, especially when something happens in the society. Movies come out, PK and OMG and these kind of movies come out, then their faith gets shaken up. In colleges we find so many such cases, and people even reach to the standard of 16 rounds. When some such issue come up, and then they are wondering, what is this? Why? How can this happen? Someone released that movie, not the movie, the video, Rajiv Dixit's video. You saw that? challenging how ISKCON is an American organization, all the money from India is flowing abroad, and then many people had their faith difficulties. So this is a sign of weak faith. Someone was telling me yesterday that I have heard ISKCON money goes for Atangwad. This is the argument he is giving, and he wanted to stay in our base, the Vidyavya Somaya base. And this guy is coming and staying there, and then his friend told me, he was saying one day, I have heard this. What is the evidence? I just heard. And it's spreading around. So these kind of things will go on, and our devotees get affected. What is happening? So if you see the notes, there is a nice chart, table given. Clearly distinguishes.
21 pages.
So two criteria considered: faith and knowledge. Uttama, high-grade devotee, has strong, convinced faith and can convince others. Knowledge is also strong, can defeat opposing arguments. Madhyama or medium-grade devotee has strong and convinced faith but cannot defeat opposing arguments. Knowledge is relatively good, and Kanishta has weak faith and weak ability to offer arguments.
Prabhuji, the Uttama Adhikari, this one qualification needed to go back to Godhead, or can even a Madhyama Adhikari?
Strictly speaking, Uttama Adhikari, we need to all become Uttama Adhikaris. Unless we have that faith and conviction about Krishna's supremacy, Krishna's activities.
Even his faith is strong here, but it is maybe they may not have the knowledge. For even in ISKCON itself, we have many devotees who are illiterate, cannot read or but they have very strong faith. I've seen many Matajis especially. So they are not interested, in the sense they don't have that literary.
This is an important point. Knowledge doesn't simply mean your familiarity with scriptural pastimes and the characters and stories and Puranas and quotation slokas. When we say knowledge, we mean about the conclusions of the scriptures. Are you convinced Krishna is God? Are you convinced you are a servant? Are you convinced about the different workings of the energy? That conclusive things, how material world is miserable, how this sense gratification is miserable, the goal of life is to serve Krishna. Oh, that's what we mean when we say knowledge. If someone is convinced, then that knowledge can be usually obtained through books. But if you can also obtain from hearing, that's fine. Sambandha Gyan that we talk about, somehow we have to obtain that. And in exceptional cases, even the holy name can reveal that. Krishna himself in the heart can reveal that. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. Somehow or the other, a devotee has to obtain knowledge. Not necessarily bookish knowledge. So the need for knowledge cannot be underestimated. Sambandha Gyan is essential for going back to Godhead. If you are not convinced about Krishna's supremacy, then it's a big foundational crisis. Then basic knowledge is not there. So, and one Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives a nice analysis about the going back to Godhead thing. He classifies, that 9 things we will see in the 19th chapter, how there are differences. Adav, Shraddha, Tata, Sadhu. It starts with faith. Faith and Sadhu Sangha. You start associating with devotees. Then Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, and Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhav and Prem. 9 stages of how faith. This is actually all development of faith. How faith is developing. It begins with the seed of faith and ultimately culminates in Prema. So there he says, based on the level of faith, where the person falls, Uttamadhikari or Madhyamadhikari or Kanishta. So he says Nishtha, till Anartha Nivritti is a Kanishta. Someone is still Anartha Nivritti, that means he is a Kanishta Adhikari. Once you reach Nishtha, that is Madhyama. Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti is also Madhyama. Bhava, Prem is Uttama. So, simply Madhyama Adhikari is not enough from this analysis that to go back to God. Of course, unless at the time of death, everything can happen instant also. Krishna can award that advancement in a few days or a few instants. We have seen so many devotees terminal patients, when they're in the hospital, they get all realization in one shot. Right? They're struggling throughout the life, but in one last few days in the hospital, they get all realization and they go back there. All devotees surrounding them, photos and Maha Prasad from everywhere, all over the universe, they get it. All Ganga Jal, Yamuna Jal, Tulsi, everything they get. And then they go back to Godhead. I mean, hopefully they go back to Godhead. So we can't say, but the stage has to go through. To reach the top floor, you have to pass through all the floors until you reach the top floor. Either through elevator or through the staircase. Somewhere you have to go. Right? Usually the bhakti process is elevator process. Okay, so next. Now here Prabhupada talks about the 4 stages, four types of devotees that we see in the Gita. Chaturvidha vajante mam jana sukriti norjuna. Those 4 people, 4 categories of devotees, where do they fall? What is that? Artho, Jigyasur, Artharthi and Jnani. These 4 classes of people, where do they fall? Are they Kanishta, Madhyama or Uttama? What do you think? All are Kanishta. All are Kanishta. Because the goal is not to please Krishna. Their motive is not to please Krishna. They may be advanced culturally, samskaras they may be having much better. But because the motive is not to please Krishna, therefore they are considered to be Kanishtas, not pure devotees. Okay, let us read. Further classification.
Further classification of the neophyte devotee is made in the Bhagavad Gita. It is stated there that 4 classes of men, namely those who are distressed, those who are in need of money, those who are inquisitive, and those who are wise, begin devotional service and come to the Lord for relief in the matter of their respective self-satisfaction. They go into some place of worship and pray to God for mitigation of material distress or for some economic development or to satisfy their inquisitiveness. And a wise man who simply realizes the greatness of God is also counted among the neophytes. Such beginners can be elevated to the second class or first class platform if they associate with pure devotees.
So this is the basic division, 4 classes. Artho, one who is distressed, one who is in need of money, one who is inquisitive, and one who is in knowledge of the Absolute. One who has knowledge of the Absolute. And Prabhupada gives example for each. Artho example is Gajendra. Distressed. Someone is distressed. Gajendra was the example. Artharthi is Dhruva Maharaj. Jigyasu is, any idea? Shaunakadi Rishis. And Jnani is the 4 Kumaras. Yeah. It's there, it's mentioned here already. We'll come across.
Oh, they are the pure devotees, like
Who?
4 Kumaras.
Now they are pure devotees, but that instance, that pastime is a symptom of neophyte stage. And the Kumaras smelled the Tulsi leaves offered to Vishnu. That's when they advanced from impersonalist to pure devotion. Now we can't categorize them as neophytes, but that example, that story instance is that pastime is indicative of their neophyte stage. Is that clear? Yes. You want to write on that thing? Artho or distressed is Gajendra.
Just give us.
Is there, na? Yeah, it's there. Next paragraph is there.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Is Shukdev Goswami considered under wise?
Shukdev Goswami, not Shukdev Goswami, Shaunakadi Rishis. It's mentioned here, Shukdev Goswami. Shaunakadi Rishi, you know?
No, Prabhu, can you just...
No, it's mentioned over here. I'm asking. Because somewhere we have also heard that even Shukdev Goswami is considered under wise.
The Bhagavatam describes the story of how Shukdev Goswami was an impersonalist in the beginning, and he heard the Bhagavatam from Vyasadev, his father. That's when he got attracted to pure devotion. So that instance is a neophyte stage, impersonalism. His motive is not to please Krishna.
But then we heard that he was a parrot, and he heard the things from Shiva, and then he went into the womb of Vyasa's wife.
Yeah, so in this story, in this pastime, in the material world, And devotee can act like that, a neophyte probably. From the eternal spiritual point of view, he may be a liberated soul, parrot of Radharani, but at least in this pastime, the 5000 years ago pastime before he spoke to Parikshit, that stage is at least shown as a neophyte stage. We can exactly judge again who is a liberated soul. That way, if you see, we all are liberated. We all have some spiritual identity in the spiritual world, and we are undergoing a pastime here. How long it will continue, we don't know. Someday we will hopefully go back to Godhead, and then this story may be narrated to someone else. Here, this was person studying in ISKCON Chowpatty, and he underwent few yugas. He stayed here, continued his life here, did some nonsense here, and then went back to Godhead. So we don't know. So from that point of view, everyone is an eternally liberated soul. But Shukdev Goswami is a special case in that sense, because yes, he is a parrot. Shuka, what is that? After touching the beak, Bhagavatam, the ripened fruit, because it was spoken by Shukadev, it became more sweet. That's the verse it says. Yes.
Just clarification I need with inquisitive and a wise. Okay, inquisitive and a wise means how they can be at the neophyte stage. Inquisitive, and they are just want to acquire knowledge about God. And the wise, they already appreciate, yes, God, you are great. But then also why they are neophyte?
The motive is not to please Krishna.
Motive is not to please Krishna, therefore. Inquisitive, they just want to gain knowledge. But
they want to gain knowledge, they want money, they want relief from distress, or they're just curious. Okay. Or they even have their knowledge, but still the goal is not yet to please Krishna.
Okay. In both the cases, the goal is not to please Krishna.
In all cases, the goal is not to please Krishna.
Okay. That other two to understand. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, we can read.
An example of the neophyte class is Maharaj Brewer. He was in need of his father's kingdom and therefore engaged himself in devotional service to the Lord. Then in the end, when he was completely purified, he declined to accept any material benediction from the Lord. Similarly, Gajendra was distressed and prayed to Krishna for protection, after which he became a pure devotee. Similarly, Sanatan, Sananda and
Sanat Kumar
were all in the category of wise, saintly persons, and they were also attracted by devotional service. A similar thing happened to the assemblage in the Naimisharanya forest, headed by the sage Shaunaka. They were inquisitive and were always asking Sud Goswami about Krishna. Thus they achieved the association of a pure devotee and became pure devotees themselves. So that is the way of elevating oneself in whatever condition one may be. If he is fortunate enough to associate with pure devotees, then very quickly he is elevated to the second class or first class platform.
So all these four are not practicing pure devotion service. Their objective is not to please Krishna. They may be elevated from samskaras, from piety point of view, but they are not. Their goal is not to please Krishna. So therefore they are not considered as, their activities are not considered as pure devotion. Their rendering of bhakti is not considered pure. Gajendra's prayers in that sense, of course after it was delivered from Vishnu, by Vishnu, then it is a pure devotee. Dhruva Maharaj became a pure devotee. But before that, his activity is not considered pure devotion. So yes, next.
These four types of devotees have been described in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and they have all been accepted as pious. Without becoming pious, no one can come to devotional service. It is explained in the Bhagavad Gita that only one who has continually executed activities and whose sinful reactions in life have completely stopped can take to Krishna consciousness, and others cannot. The neophyte devotees are classified into four groups: the distressed, those in need of money, the inquisitive, and the wise, according to their gradations of pious activities. Without pious activities, if a man is in a distressed condition, he becomes an agnostic, a communist, or something like that. Because he does not firmly believe in God, he thinks that he can adjust his distressed condition by totally disbelieving in him.
Nice statement. Because he does not firmly believe in God, he thinks that he can adjust his distressed condition by totally disbelieving in him. So yeah, piety, this piety is not the mundane piety, punya that we talk about. Most religious people, nominally religious people, they are interested in accumulating piety. Punya kamana hai. They do all kinds of yagyas and tapa, and they visit religious places of worship to accumulate piety. So this piety is different. This piety is that spiritual sukriti. Chaturvida bhajantayam jana sukriti no arjuna. They have sukriti. Like we were discussing the other day. So you had asked, no? The minimum qualification. You may have unlimited sukriti, but unless we have you have unlimited piety, but if you don't have enough sukriti, spiritual sukriti, till then we cannot on our own take up the spiritual process. So therefore all kinds of when we come across unknowingly, agyata sukriti we do, unknowingly we come across, we hear the holy name, we chant the holy name. Like in these Ganesh festivals, they have that Hare Krishna mantra in the end. Hare Ram they say in the beginning. And so that's how you accumulate sukriti. So after years and years, when you have sufficiently chanted the Mahamantra and chanted Krishna's names, probably then he or she may take up the bhakti process. Then the person will start chanting holy name on his own. And therefore it is advantageous to have birth in India, because somehow or other we hear, we chant, people have names of Krishna, and here somehow some bell ringing, prasad is possible. Outside India, that is a big challenge. So therefore Indians are more likely to become devotees. There are chances, because sukriti is accumulating slowly gets accumulated. One day that they can take up.
So even to become one of the four, we need to have the sukriti.
These people have some sukriti. And the next verse of the Gita, Krishna says, Udara sarva eva ite. What is that? Among the four, the wise people are the best. Jnani Tesham Jnani Nitya Yukta Eka Bhaktir Vishishyate. Among the four, Jnani is the best. Priyohi, they are dear to me. Priyohi Jnani Notyartha. Aham Sachamama Priya. And then he says all four are pious. Next verse. The wise is the best, but all four are pious. They have some sukriti, some pious credits. Yes, continue.
Lord Krishna has explained in the Gita that out of these four types of neophytes, the one who is wise is very dear to him. Because a wise man, if he is attached to Krishna, is not seeking an exchange of material benefits. The wise man who becomes attached to Krishna does not want any return from him, either in the form of material prestige or in gaining money. This means that from the very beginning, his basic principle of attachment to Krishna is more or less love. Furthermore, due to his wisdom and study of Shastra scriptures, he can understand also that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So 4 Kumaras is the example. They were not practicing pure devotion, but as soon as they smelled the tulsi leaf offered to Vishnu, they immediately took up the process. So they were ready, although they were not pure devotees, they were ready for accepting the process. So right now we may be probably doing devotion service, but we are not fully mature. Anarthas are dragging us down. So these people may not have anarthas, but it's just like a track is there. We are on the track far behind, and there are people who are far ahead but not on the track. So just some little connection will put them on the track, and then they march ahead on the path.
Still they are able to reach to Vaikuntha.
Yeah, they reached the Vaikuntha, yeah. That pastime is different. Probably after they became pure, I don't know when they happened. That pastime, reaching the pure Vaikuntha gates. After the smelling the tulsi pastime, yeah. Durvas Muni also reached, right? He also reached Ambarish pastime. He also reached the Vaikuntha, but then he didn't stay there. He came back. So here also Prabhupada is talking about the love factor. More or less their criteria is love. From the very beginning, this basic principle of attachment to Krishna is more or less love. Oh, this love is not again pure prema bhakti we are talking about. So love has a different intensity, different degrees. The basic attachment principle Prabhupada is talking about. Yes, next.
It is confirming Bhagavad Gita that after many births, when one becomes actually wise, he surrenders unto Vasudeva, knowing the perfectly well that Krishna, Vasudeva, is the origin and the cause of all goddess. Therefore, he stick to the lotus feet of Krishna and gradually develop love for him. Although such wise man is very dear to Krishna, the other are also accepted as very magnanimous, because even though they are distressed or in need of money, they have come to Krishna for satisfaction. Thus, they are accepted as a liberal and broad-minded Mahatmas.
Udara Sarva. This is a Gita verse. Udara Sarva Evaite. And after many births, which is that verse? Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. This is how Prabhupada used to define a Mahatma. And during those times, Mahatma Gandhi was quite popular. And Mahatma means, people's idea was Mahatma Gandhi. So Prabhupada used to smash. Mahatma means not a political, someone who is politically rubber stamped as a Mahatma, but a person who is completely surrendered to Lord Vasudeva and he understands Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Understand Vasudeva is everything, Krishna is everything, and one who is surrendered to Krishna. Such a person is Mahatma, not someone who has been given a political title of Mahatma.
Mahatma Gandhi, he remember anyway, I think he took the name of Ram as the name of would he have gone to...
Could have been. I don't know. Is it true that he did chant?
Statements regarding
He said Hey Ram.
Hey Ram, even I have heard.
It is Vaishnava Jan was very important.
Huh?
Vaishnava Jan, that is a Vaishnava song in Gujarati. He used to go to the lake.
Achha. He's definitely quite religious minded, and his destination must be auspicious if he has chanted the holy name. Not necessarily simply by chanting the holy name at the time of death may not guarantee you will go back to Godhead. Our absorption level also important. We may chant and it is Krishna's magnanimity if we go back to Godhead. But if you are not ready, if you have never practiced spiritual life, devotional life throughout our life, and simply the chanting of the holy name may definitely promote us to higher destination. That is guaranteed. But whether we are qualified to enter into spiritual world and be a part of the eternal Leela, that is doubtful. But take a few more lifetimes to practice. Even those who are practiced, once in the next life, they generally enter into a pastime in the material world where Krishna is performing pastime, and then they are trained there. It's a probation period. And then you enter into the original spiritual world. Even those who have practiced for years. So it's not so easy when you just remember Krishna and then you go back to Godhead. You go back to Godhead definitely, but there is a delay. There could be a few lifetimes ka delay, few years ka delay also.
I think Maharaj once said about this. It is not only Antakale Chimami, it is Manmanava Bhatta. So it is like you should always remember only one. It is not that either you do this, it's the combination of both.
Yeah.
This you will remember this and also.
Even those, we see patients and devotees at the time of death, so many kirtans is happening, but what the patient is thinking at the time of death? He can't hear anyone, he can't recognize anyone. Advantage is definitely there, auspicious situation is definitely there, but the thought and consciousness and mood, it all matters, everything matters. If Krishna, the last qualification, Sri Krishna Akarshani, we saw, Sudurlabha and Sri Krishna Akarshani. Krishna, why would he give to anyone who has not practiced? He will test, he has a right to test. That's his, as accepting someone as my own family member, definitely Krishna is going to test. He will give all opportunities, but may not immediately take up, unless the person is ready, fully ripened, mature in devotional service. Therefore, we have a whole life of practice. At the time of till before death, we are supposed to go through all these stages, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, and sometimes it is simply theoretical. We always keep complaining about anartha. So many anarthas are there. Lust, anger, greed, envy, everything is troubling me. And we never hear anyone saying I am beyond anarthas, and we never experience going beyond anarthas. Ourselves individually, and at least we don't find anyone apparently who has gone beyond anarthas. Because no one is going to reveal I am beyond anarthas. Right? And even the most advanced devotee is going to say I am still affected by anarthas. Just like all other great devotees say. So where is the nishtha, ruchi, asakti? You may wonder. There is a book called Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani. Shivaram Maharaj has written this book, and there he gives a nice story of someone who progresses through all these 9 stages and attains prema within one lifetime. And he starts with a regular person, Westerner, Alex is his name, European, some Western devotee. And he is walking along the road, and he sees a Harinam party, and he is wondering what is this, people with bed sheets roaming around dancing. And then someone offers him a book, Easy Journey to Other Planets. This is a fiction story, all are fictitious characters. And he gets a book, Easy Journey, and then he gets the book, puts it in his home, and he forgets about the whole thing. And after 2-3 weeks, his mother tells him, "Oh, what is this book? Have you brought this, Alex?" "Oh, yeah, I got the book." And then he picks up the book and then starts reading. And he finds the concept quite amazing. Life, how one can go into other planets. There is life on other planets, anti-material. You read the book? Easy Journey to Other Planets. So Prabhupada talks about anti-material and material, matter and antimatter. How there could be a place where the materials are displaying characteristics exactly opposite to that of matter in this world. And that's how he introduces the concept of spiritual world. So he gets the book and he starts reading and he's enjoying the concepts, and he feels a little inquisitive. What is this? And on the back of the book he gets the address of the local temple. And then he goes to the local temple and he starts meeting people there, devotees, and he is quite inquisitive. And then he starts regularly visiting the temple, and his parents are cautioning him, "Come on, don't be too much into all this. It's need to be balanced." But then he doesn't care. He visits. Occasionally he stays overnight in the temple, attends Mangalarti once in a while, once in a month, twice in a month. In this way his spiritual life starts. Although Shraddha is there, Sadhu Sangha is happening, he begins the chanting process, Bhajana Kriya, and Sannivritti also begins because of the holy name. In this way, he keeps taking prasad. Prasad is highly nourishing, not just for the taste, but even he feels spiritually nourished simply by taking prasad. And then discussing the philosophy, he has a counselor, not exactly counselor, but someone who is senior devotee who is guiding him. And that also he finds highly nourishing. And that continues for some time. Then he goes on a farm. The temple has a farm, just like exactly our setup. Even Hungary, Shivaram is from Hungary. He has a city temple and a farm community outside the city. So then he visits the farm, and then he's spending 2-3 days consecutively there, and he takes up services, washing pots, menial services he does. Washing pots, clean the temple, garlands, and those similar simple services. And that gives him a really powerful experience. And he feels this is the life I need to follow. He gets a firm commitment to practicing devotion life. And then he's wondering, ashram thing. Now the ashram thing comes up. Which ashram to join? Should I join the brahmachari ashram? Should I join the grihastha ashram? And he's confused. And then somehow he gets the conviction of joining the brahmachari ashram. And then he has a very close friend. His name is Gaur Hari. He gets married. Now these two are extremely close friends. Both come to the movement at the same time, and they are practicing devotional service together. And they share a lot of thoughts and ideas with each other. So whenever he gets time, he spends his time with them, nourishing equal peers. And then he has a senior, and new devotees are also joining regularly. And in this way his progress happens. And then after some time he accepts the initiation. He accepts second initiation. He starts worshipping the deities. He goes on yatras, Vrindavan and Mayapur. He comes to yatras, and he's nourished. His progress is happening slowly, tangibly. He can visibly perceive the change. And then slowly, after some time, he gets lax. Complacency creeps in, and then everything becomes mechanical, just like exactly as sadhya goes through stages. And after 10 years also, he feels, I'm 10 years into the ashram, and I'm still feeling lust and anger, greed. All these anarthas are still there. And he's wondering. Then he checks with his counselor, and then he advises, "Oh, this is common. Everyone goes through this." But then that's where he feels commitment. Now I need to seriously work. Till now it is happening, but now commitment increases. So from that stage, at the age of 35, everything is given. 35 age, 10 years he has spent, and then he accelerates his sadhana, spends more time with Prabhupada's books, extra rounds, extra fasting, more austere fasting, and in this way he progresses to Nishtha. Then he Anartha Nivritti, that stage is shown as going away from Anartha Nivritti, beyond Anartha Nivritti. And then Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, he develops extra taste for bhakti. And then he goes into selective reading. So usually we go incidental reading, like I am taking a book, Bhagavatam, first canto, second canto, third canto. So Maharaj there advises someone who is into Nishtha and Ruchi, he must go into selective reading. Selected pastimes that someone is attracted to. Okay, Vrindavan pastimes or Raja pastime, Mayapur, Chaitanya Charitamrita. These things will help in developing that Raganuga mood that we are talking about, Raganuga Bhakti. Finally, after many years, then he is now considered a senior devotee. He takes up temple president's job, preacher's job, book distribution, everything is going on. And his internal cultivation is also happening. Slowly, extra taste for chanting, extra taste for dham, hearing, everything is developing. And suddenly he feels a crisis. There's a crisis. His friend falls away from devotional service, Gaur Hari. He gets trapped by some Mayavadi, some Sahajiya in Vrindavan, Radhakund. And then he's wondering what has happened to him. And then his wife complains to him, Achyutanand, Alex has now become Achyutanand. And he comes and his wife tells him, "No, please save my husband." And then he goes and talks to him. After spending many hours, Gaur Hari is revived. He understands, oh, I made a mistake. So he understands the dangers of going around to reading so many books, hearing so many philosophies. That danger is talked about. And eventually, after many more years, he finally, in the old age, he and his counselor come to Mayapur alone to spend some extra time during Kartik. And there he goes into total internal absorption, total meditation, chanting and seeing the Panchatattva. And that is the turning point from where he goes into Bhava stage. He finds Lord Chaitanya in a dream and he asks, what should I do? Should I go back to my preaching center or should I stay here and give up my body? So Lord Chaitanya advises him in the dream, you go back, continue preaching till the end of your life and I will take care of everything. So he goes back, continues preaching, and that time comes then his guru leaves the body, spiritual master leaves the body, and then spiritual master hands over his personal Chaitanya Charitamrita copy to him, because you are my special disciple, this is a gift from me. After some time his counselor leaves the body, and that's a big shock for him. He cries a lot, and finally his time comes, and then he also goes back to worship. That's how the story ends. And so it appears so real that we all can go through that stage from Anartha Nivritti till Prema. Otherwise Prema appears like a far-fetched goal beyond my reach. Ye lifetime is होने वाला है. After some lifetime maybe it's all too elevated, too esoteric. Let me chant Hare Krishna inattentively, continue my relaxed, complacent sadhana. That doesn't matter. सब लोग ऐसे ही anyway. Everyone is struggling with anarthas. Everyone is having their own problems. I also do. And ultimately, if I remember Krishna will anyway protect me. At the time of death, he will force into my mind, and I'll go back to Godhead. This is not faith. We think this is faith. This is lack of seriousness many of the times. Most of the times. So what is committed faith, hope and complete surrender to Krishna, and could be complacency or lack of faith. We need to exactly analyze our own situation and come to a conclusion. Where am I? That's a very good book if you can.
What is the name of it?
Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani. I don't think it is there in the library. Our gift shop. It's there in our library. Ashram library. Anyway, so let us continue. Where are we? Okay, without being elevated. Want to read?
Without being elevated to the position of a
Jnani.
or wise man, one cannot stick to the principle of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The less intelligent or those whose intelligence has been taken away by the spell of Maya are attached to different demigods or on account of the influence of the modes of nature. The wise man is he who has truly understood that he is spirit, soul, and not simply a body, because he realizes that he is a spirit and Krishna is the supreme spirit. He knows that his intimate relationship should be with Krishna, not with this body. The distress and the men in want of money are in the material concept of life, because distress and need of money are both in relationship with this body. One who is inquisitive may be a little above the distress and the man in need of money, but still he is on the material platform. But a wise man who seeks Krishna knows perfectly well that he is a spirit soul or Brahman, and that Krishna is the supreme spirit soul or Parabrahman. He knows that the spirit soul, being subordinate and finite, should always dovetail himself with the infinite and supreme soul, Krishna. That is the relationship of the wise man with Krishna.
So Jnani and Jigyasu are slightly better than Artho and Artharthi, because their concerns are not just based on centered around the body, wealth and distress. But majority of the people, especially in Kali Yuga, are falling under the category of Artho, distressed. Some you may find out of Artharthi, Jnani and Jigyasu are totally invisible species in Kali Yuga. You hardly find. Jnani is rare, extremely rare. Jigyasu maybe some Radhanath Maharaj can be categorized probably in the beginning, the journey home. Someone who is inquisitive, finding out where is God, who is God, all those things. But rarely you will find, most of the people are distressed, struggling to manage their basic roti, kapda, makan, and that itself takes a lot of time. Where is the time to inquire about the absolute truth? Whole inquiry is how to survive, how to stay, maintain our job and maintain our family. That Bhagavatam says if someone can maintain the family in Kali Yuga, that is considered success. Having a family and wife and 2 children, that is considered success. That is how you rate the success of a Kali Yuga person. That itself is a big challenge. Forget about other things, big things. If someone can successfully do this, that is a big achievement. Because the condition is so distressful. Government taxation, environmental condition, natural disaster, these all keep happening. Political changes, economic fluctuations. In that condition, to get a job, earn our daily bread itself is a big challenge. That someone can do successfully, the whole energy is drained out simply in that. Especially in cities like Bombay, where accommodation monthly rent is going up to 20, 25, 30,000, and so many other natural calamities keep happening, fluctuations, market changes. To maintain a good job and maintain a family is a big task. And if someone is practicing spiritual life over and above that, it's commendable. You should congratulate him. Come on, you're successfully taken up the process. Otherwise, for ordinary people, it's impossible. So Jnani is a rare people, Jigyasu is also extremely rare. If he's someone on that platform, then that is special. Jnani and Jigyasu. Most of people are in Artho and Artharthi. Yes, it can be concluded that a person who is freed from the bodily concept of life is an eligible candidate for pure devotional service. It is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that after Brahman realization, when one is freed from material anxieties and can see every living entity on an equal level, he is eligible to enter into devotional service. What is that? Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atma na shochati na kankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. Only one who is freed from bodily concepts. Freed from bodily concept means na shochati na kankshati. Shochati and kankshati are symptoms of someone who is in the bodily platform. Only then you can enter into pure devotional service. Yes, next.
As stated before, there are three kinds of happiness: material, spiritual, and devotional. Devotional service and happiness due to its execution are not possible as long as one is materially affected. If someone has desire for material enjoyment or for becoming one with the Supreme, these are both considered material concepts. Because the impersonalists cannot appreciate the spiritual happiness of association and the exchange of loving affairs with the Supreme Personal Godhead, their ultimate goal is to become one with the Lord. This concept is simply an extension of the material idea. In the material world, everyone is trying to be the topmost head man among all his fellow men or neighbors. Either communally, socially, or nationally, everyone is competing to be greater than all others. In the material concept of life, this greatness can be extended to the unlimited, so that one actually wants to become one with the greatest of all, the Supreme Lord. This is also a material concept, although maybe a little more advanced.
Prabhupada said the desire to become one with God is a last snare of Maya. So initially we have desire for earning money, this and that, material sense gratification, everything is there. When every attempt is frustrated, then you get a desire to become one with God. That is the last snare. That's the Mayavadi goal. So that is also material, because no one can become God. To become God is a sign of you want to become the greatest enjoyer. You are unable to enjoy here, small things, and when everything is frustrated, you want to become the greatest enjoyer by trying to become God. So that is also a material idea, born of desire for sense gratification. Clear? Any comments anyone wants to add? Any thoughts? Clarification? Okay, next.
However, the perfect spiritual concept of life is complete knowledge of one's constitutional position, in which one knows enough to dovetail himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. One must know that he is finite and that the Lord is infinite. Thus it is not possible to actually become one with the Lord, even if one aspires for this. It is simply not possible. Therefore, anyone who has any desire or aspiration for satisfying his senses by becoming more and more important, either in the material sense or in the spiritual sense, cannot actually relish the really sweet taste of devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami has therefore compared possessing this bhakti, material, and mukti, liberation, desires with being influenced by the black art of which, in both cases, one is in trouble. Bhukti means material enjoyment, and mukti means to become free from material anxiety and to become one with the Lord. These desires are compared to being haunted by ghosts and witches, because while these aspirations for material enjoyment or spiritual oneness with the Supreme remain, no one can relish the actual transcendental taste of devotional service.
This is a nice verse. Bhukti mukti spruha yavat pishachi hridi vartate. Rupa Goswami is saying, Bhukti mukti spruha. The desire for bhukti and mukti. Spruha is a desire. Yavat, jab tak. Pishachi hridi vartate. Pishachi is black witch. Hridi vartate, remains in the heart. Tavat bhakti sukhasyatra. Till then, bhakti ka sukh katham abhyudayo bhavet. How is it going to arise in your heart? As long as the desire for bhakti and mukti dominates our heart, it's impossible. So therefore, one sign of pure devotion service is no desire for bhakti and mukti. These are considered one who has this desire considered haunted by ghost. That means he is going to act crazy. The desire for material enjoyment makes us crazy, haunted. Too graphic an example. So now onwards, the rest of the chapter is only references of how a devotee rejects bhakti and mukti. Around 5, I think around 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 references here. And continuing the next chapter, devotional service surpasses all liberation. The next chapter has how many? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 8 pages of references. Only references of how devotees reject bhakti and mukti. That's all. Various quotations of Bhagavatam, Vritrasura pastime, Damodar Leela, what else? Kapil Dev's prayers, Kunti Devi's prayers, and Narsingh Prahlad's prayers. I think we should recite the Prahlad one today. So, Bilomangal Thakur's prayer is there. So, page 33 onwards, the rest of the chapter, and continuing the next chapter till page 46 or page 45. Till page 45. Only references. Now, we may wonder why so many references just to prove one point. How the point is only one. How devotees reject bhakti and mukti, material desire and liberation.
Siddhi also.
Yeah, mukti, siddhi and all. So, why it is so important? Because this is the main reason why we are in the material world. The desire for material enjoyment, and for those who are frustrated with material enjoyment, for them the desire for liberation dominates. Rarely you will find someone that with the desire to render selfless service. Everyone in the material world is for these two reasons: the desire for material enjoyment or the desire for liberation. So there, yes, siddhi also come under bhakti only. Yogic siddhis. Prabhupada sometimes classifies it separately. And bhakti, Prabhupada calls it, classifies under gross enjoyment. Eating, sleeping, mating, different. And yoga siddhi is slightly subtle. So there he sometimes separates it. Otherwise it will generalize, we can generalize it under bhakti. So bhakti and mukti. Mukti is for those who are frustrated. After unlimited struggle for bhakti, you get frustrated. Ultimately, because it is not going to give me real happiness. It leaves our heart empty. For so many years, if you do bhakti, and ultimately it's unsatisfying bhakti. So then you feel, oh, this bhakti is frustrating. Let me get out of the whole thing. I want mukti. So therefore, Lord Chaitanya says, Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakale Ashant. All are Ashant, restless. Krishna Bhakta Nishkam Ataeva Shant. Only Krishna devotee is Nishkam and therefore Shant, peaceful. All others are restless in the mind. Anyone who has any material or desire for liberation, desire for liberation. So therefore you have so many references just to convince the conditioned soul that this is not your goal. You are not supposed to run after bhakti and mukti. So we will not go into every reference. Let us see a few. Maybe which one? Okay, Bilva Mangal Thakur's one, page 33. If I am engaged in devotional service unto you, my dear Lord, then very easily can I perceive your presence everywhere. Page 33, second half. And as far as liberation is concerned, I think liberation stands at my door with folded hands, waiting to serve me. Mukti swayam mukulitanjali sevyate smat. Mukti is standing at my doorstep with folded hands. How can I serve you? For a bhakta. So Bhakta rejects mukti. Then we have Kapil Dev's instruction, Uddhava's instruction.
What do you mean by spiritual emancipation?
Emancipation means liberation.
That's one in the
Same thing. Okay, next chapter we have examples of Prithu Maharaj's quotation and Vritrasura pastime on page 38. Vritrasura pastime is special because among spirituals, within spiritual circles, Bhagavatam is known as that Puran where Vritrasura pastime is described. One identity of Bhagavatam is that Puran where Vritrasura pastime is there. So that's a special story. Let us read that. My dear Lord, by leaving your transcendental service, I may be promoted to the planet called Dhruvaloka, or I may gain lordship over all the planetary systems of the universe. But I do not aspire to this, nor do I wish the mystic perfections of yoga practice, nor do I aspire to spiritual emancipation. All I wish for, my Lord, is your association and transcendental service eternally. So almost all prayers are in this tone. Everyone rejecting bhukti and mukti. Okay, today being nothing to do, let us read Prahlad 1. Page 38.
last paragraph.
Last paragraph. Yeah, read, Prabhu.
In the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, 6th chapter, verse 25, Prahlad Maharaj says, My dear friends born into atheistic families, if you can please the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, then there is nothing more rare in this world. In other words, if Supreme Lord Krishna is pleased with you, then any desire you may have within the core of your heart can be fulfilled without any doubt. As such, that is the use of elevating yourself by the results of fruitive activities, which are automatically achieved in all the events by modes of material nature. And what is the use for you of spiritual emancipation or liberation from material bondage? If you are always engaged in chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord and always relishing the nectar of lotus feet of the Supreme of the Lord, then there is no necessity for any of this. By this statement of Prahlad Maharaj, it is clearly understood that one who takes pleasure in chanting and hearing the transcendental glories of the Lord has clearly surpassed all kinds of material benediction, including the results of pious, fruitive activities, sacrifices, and even liberation from material bondage.
Okay, next is also Prahlad. You want to read? Yes,
Similarly, in the same 7th canto, 8th chapter, verse 42, when the demigods are offering praise
Okay, demigods are offering.
Indra and the King of Heaven says, O Supreme One, these demons talk of our share of participation in the performance of ritualistic sacrifices, but simply by your appearance as Lord Nrsimhadeva, you have saved us from terrible fears. Actually, our shares in the sacrificial performance are due to you only, because you are the supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices. You are the super soul of every living entity. Therefore, you are the actual owner of everything. Long were our hearts always filled with fear of this demon, Hiranyakashipu, but you are so kind toward us that by killing him, you have removed that fear from within our hearts and have given us the chance to place your Lordship within our hearts again. For persons who are engaged in transcendental loving service of your Lordship, all the opulences which were taken away from us by the demons are counted as nothing. Devotees do not care even for liberation. What to speak of these material opulences? Actually, we are not enjoyers of the fruits of sacrifices. Our only duty is to always be engaged in your service, for you are the enjoyer of everything.
Then there is Gajendra prayer. There is Durvasa Muni's prayer from Ambarish pastime. Nagapatni's prayer, page 40. Prayers of the personified Vedas on page 40. Then we have Uddhava section. Page 42 talks about Damodar Lila. Varam Deva Moksham, Moksha Vadimva. That's Kuvera. passage of Hayashirsha Pancharatra. This is a new thing. Okay, let us read Prahlad once again. 43 page, second half.
In the same Ayasirasya Pancharatra, after Narasimhadeva wanted to give benedictions to Prahlad Maharaja, Prahlada did not accept any material benediction and simply asked the favor of the Lord to remain his eternal devotee. In this connection, Prahlad Maharaja cited the example of Hanuman, the eternal servitor of Lord Ramchandra, who also set an example by never asking any material favor from the Lord. He always remained engaged in the Lord's service. That is the ideal character of Hanuman, for which he is still worshipped by all devotees. Prahlada Maharaj also offered his respectful obeisances unto Hanuman. There is a well-known verse spoken by Hanuman in which he says, "My dear Lord, if you like, you can give me salvation from this material existence, or the privilege of merging into your existence, but I do not wish any of these things. I do not want anything which diminishes my relationship with you as servant to master, even after liberation."
So this is Prahlad. There's a big section of Prahlad prayers in the Bhagavatam. Around 20-30 verses are there. Nice verses. Then we have Parikshit's prayer, Vritrasur. Kunti Devi's prayer on page 44. Okay, last page, last line of 44 is the Atmaram verse. Famous Atmaram verse that is discussed. It's a Bhagavatam verse, but it is explained in detail in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Who was that? Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya? Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya gave this explanation in 9 different ways. The meaning of the Atmaram verse. Right, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, right? Not Ramanandra. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, no? And Lord Chaitanya, and then he said, Lord Chaitanya said, I can offer 61 or 64 explanations. So Lord Chaitanya gave 64 different explanations of the same Atmaram verse. And when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya heard one verse explained in 64 different ways, untouched by without touching any of the 9 explanations that he gave originally, that's when he concluded, this is God. This must be Krishna. Who else can have such scholarship? To every word of the verse. Atma Ramascha Munayo Nirgrantha Apyurukrame Kurvantya Tukim Bhaktin Itham Bhuta Gunohare. This Sutta Goswami is speaking the verse. First canto. And this famously known as Atmaram verse. So in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, we find Prabhupada going into detail, explaining each verse. So later Sanatana Goswami, when he met Lord Chaitanya in Prayag, so there he asked, can you explain all the explanations to me that he offered to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya? So Lord Chaitanya explained the whole thing, whatever he spoke to Sarvabhauma. Indeed, he discussed one verse, Atmaram verse, for a long time. So this is that. Let us read that.
Another passage which is very important is in Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 7th chapter, verse 10, and is called Atmarama verse. In this Atmarama verse, it is stated that even those who are completely liberated from material contamination are attracted by the transcendental qualities of Lord Krishna. The purport of this verse is that a liberated soul has absolutely no desire at all for material enjoyment. He is wholly freed from all kinds of material desires, yet still he is irresistibly attracted by the desire to hear and understand the pastimes of the Lord. We may therefore conclude that the glories and the pastimes of the Lord are not material. Otherwise, how could the liberated persons known as Atmaramas be attracted by such pastimes? That is the important point in this verse.
So liberated souls who have no desire for material enjoyment, they are attracted to something higher. So that means Krishna's pastimes are not material, indirectly. If liberated souls who have no connection with, nothing to do with material enjoyment, they are attracted to something else. That means it is not material. Okay, now towards the last section, Prabhupada talks about the 5 kinds of liberation. We discussed this one time in a few last session, I think. 5 kinds of liberation. To become one with the Lord, to live on the same planet as the Lord, to obtain the same bodily features as the Lord, to have the same opulences as the Lord, and to have constant association of the Lord. So there are technical names to it. So there is Sayujya. This is becoming one with the Lord. Then there is to live on the same planet, Salokya. Same planet. Then obtain the same bodily features. What is that? Sarupya, yeah. Sarupya, same bodily features. Then to have the same opulences. Sarshti, right? Same opulences. And to have constant association. Samipya. Constant association. So this is the thing that devotees don't care of any of these, but especially this one, becoming one with the Lord, is considered hellish by devotees, because in this liberation there is no opportunity to serve, no interaction, no active engagement. At least in other 4 there is some chances of active engagement. At least some form of active service is possible. They're there in the notes. Okay. Not the names, no? Names are not there. The last section is important. Out of many kinds of devotees of Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, the one who is attracted to the original form of the Lord, Krishna in Vrindavan, is considered to be the foremost, first-class devotee. Such a devotee is never attracted by the opulence of Vaikuntha or even of Dwarka, the royal city where Krishna ruled. The conclusion of Rupa Goswami is that the devotees who are attracted by the pastimes of the Lord in Gokul or Vrindavan are the topmost devotees. A devotee is attached to a particular form of the Lord does not wish to redirect his devotion to other forms. For example, Hanuman, the devotee of Lord Ramachandra, knew that there is no difference between Lord Ramachandra and Lord Narayan, and yet he still wanted to render service only unto Lord Ramachandra. That is due to the specific attraction of a particular devotee. There are many forms of the Lord, but Krishna is still the original form. Though all of the devotees of the different forms of the Lord are in the same category, still it is said that those who are devotees of Lord Krishna are the topmost in the list of all devotees. So, any devotee of Lord Vishnu is a pure devotee. Rendering service to any Vishnu form is pure devotion service. But still, we need to understand there are gradations. There is a hierarchy. So Vishnu forms like Matsya, Kurma, they have their own set of devotees. Narsimha, Prahlad is there. So everyone is pure devotee. But the intensity of that love is what categorizes them as superior or inferior. So no one has material desire, no one is asking for liberation or bhukti, mukti, no desire is there among all these devotees. What distinguishes them is the mood and the intimate dealings they have with the Lord. So with Matsya Kurma you can't play around. With Narsimha you can't play around. You can't have intimate dealings. It's all awe and reverence and worshipful mood. Alright? With Lord Ram, probably there is some intimacy coming in. Vishnu forms, human-like forms. But better than that is considered Krishna in Dwarka and Mathura. And still better, the best of all is when a devotee worships Krishna in his original Shyam Sundar form. If you're in the Gita, you find that verse, Manmana Bhavan Bhakto, 18th chapter, there Prabhupada writes how one should meditate on Krishna in his original form of Shyam Sundar and not get distracted by other forms. Distraction, he called it distraction. Worshipping other form should not be diverted, not distracted, diverted to other forms. If we can worship these forms, then this original form, that is the most intimate, where Krishna exhibits Sakhya, Vatsalya and Madhurya relations, which is absent in other dealings. So therefore, as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we have inherited this, not just pure devotion. Pure devotion itself is very rare. Rendering selfless service to God, understanding the concept of God itself is rare. Getting the knowledge of God is rare. Once that is obtained, rendering service to God, knowledge of how to serve God, that is still more rare, more confidential. And within that, the most confidential is to understand the original form of God and the rasa, tattva, the mellows and dealings, intimacy. That knowledge is the rarest. That's what Lord Chaitanya has offered. Simply by the Sankirtan movement, participating in the Sankirtan movement, we are getting access, entrance into the intimate dealings of God. What can be more can be more fortunate than this? So, any questions, any thoughts, anyone wants to add?
Can you give more bit clarification about this constant association? Constant association means we are in person with Lord. It's like,
I don't have much information about all these five.
no, I don't want about others. That is very straightforward. But constant association means I could.
Maybe you can just, I'm not sure, this speculation. Maybe like Krishna in Dwarka, you may be called for some occasional official engagement, some advice, some consultation, that kind of. Regularly, once in a day, once in a while, you meet for fixed appointment. Every day you meet, like a washerman, clothes. That pastime is in Mathura, florist. This constant association, that could be one. Puja. You don't have intimate dealings, but somewhere you are close by, happen to be in that vicinity, and then you get to associate for some specific purpose. That could be the reason, one of the explanations.
This original form is 200 form only?
Yeah, 200 peacock feathered Krishna. Shyam Sundar Krishna. Not even the Dwarka. Dwarka is royal. Mathura is also royal. Krishna, Dhawan. That is the original. Therefore, man was made in the image of God. The Bible says, right? If God is the original form of God is Vishnu, and if man is made in the image of God, then we should have four arms, four-handed form. We ourselves should have. Right? So we have two forms and Krishna has two forms. Yeah.
There is nothing like here, like God is communicating with the like Lord Brahma or
communication between Vishnu and Krishna. There is that story in the Krishna book where there is a Brahman in Dwarka and he has children. He gives birth to sons periodically, and every time a son is born, that son disappears. The son is disappeared. Mysteriously it disappears, the child. And every time it happens, he goes and complains to Ugrasen. This is happening in Dwarka. He goes to Ugrasen, because you are the king, therefore my son is dying. He says. He accuses Ugrasen for the untimely death of his child. So this happens 9 times. 9 children born. Every time the child comes out of the mother's womb, it disappears. Mysteriously. Dies. So when the 9th time happens, and this Brahmana is coming to Ugrasen's court in Dwarka and complains. So there Arjun happened to be present at that time in the court of Dwarka. And then he hears his accusation. And when the Brahmana complains, then he stands up and then he declares, the next time you will have your child, I will make sure that I protect him. I'll protect him. He's protected. So the Brahmana is a little surprised. You protect? Here we have Krishna, Balaram and all the great Maharathis, Pradyumna, Aniruddha are there. And they are unable to do anything. You are going to protect? So anyway, Arjun is bragging and he says, yeah, I'll protect, don't worry. And he vows, and if I don't protect, I vow that I'll enter into fire. Arjun has a habit of taking a vow of entering into fire. So he takes that vow. And so this one is okay. He said, okay, someone is offering help, I'll accept. But he's not convinced about Arjun's capacity. So 10th child is about to be born, and what Arjun does is he creates a shield. What do you call? Kavach, not kavach. A temporary structure within, it becomes a maternity home for the wife, and that lady delivers a child inside that. So it's protected by arrows and mantras, and there is no way of anyone escaping out of that. And as your child appears, that takes birth, and mysteriously what happens? The child disappears, and the Brahman is waiting for his chance to shout at Arjun. And as soon as the child disappears, he starts accusing you are so impudent that you can, in front of Krishna and Balaram, you could dare to challenge them. You are saying you can do this. Where is the child now? So he releases all his anger at Arjun, and Arjun is surprised. And he looks at Krishna and Balaram, and then he says, okay, let me go and check. I will search out all over the universe. And then he goes on a ride. He goes to Yamara, Yamaloka, all other planets, higher planetary systems, lower planetary systems, in the self-same body. And he goes and he is searching of Pitru Loka, Yamaloka, everywhere he goes, and he is unable to find the child. And then he comes back and he is ready to enter into fire. He prepares that funeral pyre and he is ready to enter. And that's when Krishna stops him. What happened? Says, this is the situation, so I am unable to find the child, then I will enter into fire, commit suicide. So he says, wait. And then he takes him. They go on a chariot and they go above the planetary systems. And they start going upwards towards the upper layers of the universe, cross over the higher planetary system, go across the material world, enter into beyond the material world, enter into the Brahma Jyoti, and there they go into the region where Mahavishnu is lying down on his serpent bed, Sheshanag. And it's a grand, the whole journey is described, the path and the light, and if Arjun is finding glaring light and unable to control, and somehow by Krishna's mercy he is able to withstand and finally enter into Mahavishnu's abode, and then there he meets Mahavishnu. So Mahavishnu welcomes both of them, Krishna and Arjun, and he says, I was waiting for both of you because your form is so rare to be witnessed. I made this an excuse that you will come here and I can behold your form. Mahavishnu is saying, no, Mahavishnu and Krishna are not different from one point of view, they are same identity. But just to show how Krishna's form is superior Even Mahavishnu is eager to see that form. The whole pastime is enacted. And then there he hands over all children, all 10 children that were taken away by him. And then Arjun comes back and his life is saved. Krishna saves his life again. Just like the Jayadarath pastime happened.
This is post war.
I am not sure. Post war or pre war. So yeah. So what's the point? Communication. Yeah. This is one instance we have. So worshipping Krishna is essential. If we worship any other form, our destination is different. It could be spiritual world, no doubt. But within the spiritual world, we may go to the Vaikuntha planets, the Dwarka region, or the Vrindavan region. So that means if you go to Vaikuntha region, the mood intimacy will be that degree. We can't joke around with Krishna, we can't play around with Krishna, we can't have a wrestling match with Krishna, all those things are, we cannot dance with Krishna in the Ras Leela, all those things are impossible. So the mood is essential. Everything is pure devotion, no doubt about it. Therefore we are encouraged, Acharya is encouraged, especially the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharya encourages us to worship Krishna. And there are exceptions, like in Chaitanya Leela you find Murari Gupta is one devotee who is said to be Hanuman. And Lord Chaitanya advised him, now you worship Krishna, why are you worshipping Lord Ram? So he goes back home and he struggles to worship Lord Krishna. And 2-3 days he tries, and then finally he comes back to Lord Chaitanya and he cries and begs forgiveness. He says, I am unable to worship Krishna. My mind and my heart is dedicated to Lord Ramchandra, and I can't deviate my mind to any other form. So please forgive me. Let me commit suicide. He offers that. Because I am unable to follow your instruction of worshipping Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya is pleased by your attitude. He says, that's glorious is the master who never gives up his servant, and glorious is the servant who never gives up his master, in spite of all distractions, all temptations. So there you find Lord Chaitanya glorifying this attitude. But at the same time, we are given an opportunity. For those who are ready, those who want to, this is an option available to develop the most intimate relationship with God in the form of Krishna. So therefore we should try that. And the safest way to understand Krishna's pastime is through the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Otherwise there is a risk. We will take the pastimes cheaply, we will misunderstand the pastimes, we will misrepresent the pastimes. That risk is there. Therefore Lord Chaitanya's pastime is the safest. And there you find all pastimes. Nursing their pastime is there, Dhruva Maharaj pastime is there, Lord Chaitanya exhibiting all their forms and discussing all other pastimes. Lord Chaitanya spending hours discussing Dhruva and Prahlad pastime and getting lessons out of it. So everything is there within Chaitanya Leela, within Gaur Leela. And through that we understand the real mood and the surrender and the intimacy that we can develop towards Krishna. So thank you so much for your kind attention.